Brothers and sisters of the world, today we witness a dangerous theater of lies. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, points his trembling finger toward China and accuses it of supporting Hamas. But I tell you, this accusation is not about truth, it is about power. When the empire feels its grip slipping, it fabricates enemies, invents shadows, and sells fear to the world. Why China? Because China is rising, challenging the Western monopoly, building alliances, investing in nations abandoned by the West, and refusing to bow before Washington or Tel Aviv. The accusation is not about Hamas, it is about crushing an alternative world order. They want to paint China as the hidden hand, the puppet master, so they can justify sanctions, interventions, and wars. But behind this accusation hides a deeper truth. Israel's war machine is losing legitimacy, and when the mask of democracy falls, they must find a scapegoat to cover their crimes in Gaza. I will expose what lies beneath Netanyahu's words. Not the surface, not the propaganda, but the real struggle of empires, the clash of civilizations, and the awakening of the global South. Brothers and sisters, when Benjamin Netanyahu stands before the cameras and accuses China of supporting Hamas, understand this. He is not delivering truth, he is wielding a weapon. Words become bullets, narratives become bombs. This accusation is not about evidence, it is about power. The empire has long mastered this craft, to label, to smear, to demonize. They called liberation fighters terrorists. They called the colonized savages. They called truth propaganda. And today, they take that same old weapon and point it toward Beijing, hoping to fracture the new alliances being born across the global South. Why now? Because Israel's hands drip with blood in Gaza. The world is watching, the mask is slipping, and the cries of children break through every wall of censorship. To escape the weight of their crimes, they cast a shadow on another, inventing a phantom conspirator. They tell the world, do not look at Gaza, look at China. But I say to you, this is the ancient strategy of empire. When the oppressor's crimes become unbearable, he must find a scapegoat. It is the hunter who, after killing the lion, blames the hyena for the blood on his hands. This accusation is not the voice of justice. It is the desperate cry of a system in decay, clinging to its crumbling dominance. And if we do not unmask these lies, the chains of deception will once again be tightened around our necks. Brothers and sisters, ask yourselves, why is China suddenly in the crosshairs of Netanyahu's accusations? Did China send weapons to Gaza? Did China command Hamas to resist? No. The truth is simpler and more dangerous for the empire. China is building a new world. For decades, the West enslaved nations through debt, through guns, through manipulation. They built chains of poverty around Africa, Asia, and Latin America, chains forged not of iron but of contracts, sanctions, and IMF dictates. But now, a rival rises. China offers roads instead of bombs. It offers ports instead of bases. It offers trade instead of servitude. This is why they fear it. Netanyahu's words are not born in Tel Aviv alone. They echo the voice of Washington, of Brussels, of every capital that trembles at the dawn of multipolarity. To accuse China of aiding Hamas is to prepare the world to see China as the next villain, the next enemy of civilization. It is the same script used against every nation that dared to stand outside the empire's shadow. But hear me, the accusation is a mirror reflecting their fear. For in the heart of Africa, in the deserts of the Middle East, in the mountains of Latin America, people are awakening. They see in China not perfection, but an alternative, a crack in the walls of Western monopoly. And the empire knows once that crack widens, its stolen wealth and false power will collapse like a rotting fortress. That is why China is in the crosshairs, not because of Hamas, but because of history itself, because the sunrise of a new world threatens the long night of empire. Brothers and sisters, Gaza today is not only the land of Palestine, it has become the beating heart of the global South. Every bomb that falls on Gaza shakes the villages of Africa, the mountains of Latin America, the streets of Asia. Because when a child cries beneath the rubble in Gaza, that cry belongs to all of us who have suffered under the shadow of empire. The empire fears this unity more than it fears rockets or rifles. They know that Gaza has awakened a consciousness, a fire spreading from continent to continent. And so Netanyahu's accusation against China is not just about Beijing. It is about dividing this awakening, isolating Gaza, and silencing the solidarity of nations rising from centuries of chains. Look around. In Africa, our people see in Gaza their own history of colonization, of stolen gold, of borders drawn in blood. In Latin America, they remember their dictatorships propped up by the same hands that now arm Israel. In Asia, they see the same pattern of humiliation and exploitation. Gaza is no longer alone. It has become the mirror of every oppressed nation. This is why they seek to brand Hamas as the puppet of China. If Gaza's struggle can be framed as a foreign conspiracy, they hope to weaken the power of global solidarity. But we know the truth. Gaza resists not because China commands it, but because freedom itself demands it. The global South has found its rallying point in Gaza, and I tell you, the more they bomb, the stronger this unity becomes. Like the sunrise that no wall can block, the liberation of Gaza carries with it the promise of liberation for all humanity. Brothers and sisters, the greatest fear haunting the empire is not Hamas, not Gaza, not even China itself. No, their true fear is multipolarity, a world where no single master dictates the fate of humanity, a world where Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East rise as equals, not as servants. For centuries, the West thrived on monopoly, of trade, of weapons, of narratives. They controlled the gold of Africa, the oil of the Middle East, the crops of Latin America. They wrote history in their own ink, painting themselves as saviors while burying us in silence. But today that monopoly is cracking. New powers emerge, new alliances form, and the empire feels its chains slipping from our necks. When Netanyahu accuses China, he is not speaking of Hamas, he is warning the world. Do not let multipolarity be born. For once nations trade outside the dollar, once resources are shared without exploitation, once stories are told without Western approval, their stolen wealth collapses like a castle built on sand. They know this. A multipolar world means Africa will no longer beg for crumbs, Asia will no longer bow to sanctions, Latin America will no longer serve as the empire's plantation. Multipolarity is the sunrise after a long night, and it terrifies them. That is why they cling to lies, to wars, to accusations against China. They fight not to protect democracy, but to protect domination. But no empire can stop the sun from rising. The age of multipolarity has already begun, and the more they resist it, the faster their shadows will fade. Brothers and sisters, war is not only fought with missiles and tanks. The most dangerous battlefield today is the mind. The empire knows this truth well. Control the story, and you control the people. This is why Netanyahu's accusation against China is not simply a speech. It is ammunition in a war of narratives. For decades, as Western media has served as the empire's megaphone, they silence massacres, they twist rebellions, they crown villains and saints according to imperial need. When a child in Gaza dies, it becomes collateral damage. When an empire bombs a village, it becomes defense. But when the oppressed dare to resist, suddenly it is terrorism. These words are chains, invisible yet powerful enough to bind entire nations. Now, with one accusation, they try to manufacture consent. By painting China as the hidden hand behind Hamas, they plant seeds of fear in Western minds. Here is the new enemy, here is the next threat. This prepares their people not only to accept sanctions, but to cheer for war when it comes. This is not new. They use the same script in Iraq, whispering of weapons of mass destruction that never existed. They used it in Africa, calling leaders dictators when they refused to sell their nation's wealth. Each lie was a spark, igniting fire for invasion. But hear me clearly, the world is awakening. Social media cracks open the fortress of propaganda. Gaza's screams pierce through their walls of silence, and the more they manufacture consent, the more people see the strings behind the puppet show. Information warfare is the empire's last weapon, but like every weapon, it will one day fail. For truth, like the sunrise, cannot be buried forever beneath the shadows of lies. Brothers and sisters, in the streets of Africa, in the barrios of Latin America, in the refugee camps of the Middle East, and even in the silent hearts of Europe's youth, something powerful is stirring. The people are awakening. The veil of propaganda is tearing apart, and beneath it, the naked face of empire is exposed, dripping with blood, trembling with fear. When Netanyahu accuses China, he does not only fight a diplomatic battle, he fights against this awakening. For the empire knows, once the people see clearly, once they understand the chains around their necks, no amount of bombs, lies, or sanctions can hold them back. Consciousness is more dangerous to the oppressor than any weapon. Look at Gaza. Though buried in rubble, its spirit has ignited the imagination of the global south. Farmers in Mali, students in Brazil, workers in India all feel the same heartbeat, the same fire. They know that Gaza's struggle is their own. They know that the dawn of multipolarity is not a dream, but a destiny. And so every accusation, every distortion, every attempt to divide us becomes fuel for resistance. The empire is like a beast trapped in a cage of its own lies, roaring louder as its chains tighten. But outside that cage, the people march. This awakening is irreversible. It is the sunrise after centuries of darkness. The empires of old crumble not because their armies weaken, but because their people no longer believe in their myths. And today, as Gaza bleeds and the empire points its trembling finger at China, the people rise with one voice. No more chains, no more lies. The future belongs to us. Brothers and sisters, we stand at the edge of history. The empire accuses, it lies, it manufactures fear, but its weapons are weakening. Their accusations against China, their silence over Gaza, their endless propaganda, all of it is the trembling voice of a system in decline. And now the question is not about them. The question is about us. What will we do with this awakening? Will we allow ourselves to be chained again by their narratives? Or will we rise shoulder to shoulder across Africa, Asia, Latin America, and even within the heart of the West to say, no more, do not remain silent, share the truth, break the chains of misinformation, expose the lies wherever they are spoken. Stand with Gaza, stand with justice, stand with the global South. Every voice raised, every truth told, every act of resistance becomes a hammer striking against the walls of empire. The sunrise cannot be stopped. The age of multipolarity is not coming, it is here. And if we march together, united, fearless, the shadows of empire will dissolve like smoke before the fire of a new dawn. The people are awakening, and the future belongs to us.